Stamps are so much more than just tiny perforated pieces of paper you stick on an envelope and pop in a postbox. They're beautiful, miniature, collectible works of art. Stick around as we unearth secrets behind new Stranger Things special stamps and collectibles in an exclusive chat with California-based movie artist and Stranger Things illustrator Kyle Lambert. He reveals his role at the heart of one of the world's biggest TV shows and unveils his new Royal Mail stamp designs. The world of stamps just got a whole lot stranger. Welcome to the Stampcast, and welcome to Hawkins, the sleepy town turned upside down by dark supernatural forces lurking beneath the surface. Stranger Things is the record-breaking Netflix series fusing 1980s nostalgia, eerie sci-fi and unbreakable bonds. Its beloved characters and mysterious monsters are the stars of striking new Royal Mail stamps and souvenirs, designed by Stranger Things illustrator Kyle Lambert. Kyle joins us from his Los Angeles studio for a sneak preview of the stamps and collectibles released on the 13th of January.
You would say a stamp's quite small, like it's how important can that be? But it's more of a symbol of the history of the UK. And I think it is like a little love letter that I've sent back to the UK from LA.
Kyle, Stranger Things is this global phenomenon. Your work appears on billboards, clothing, action figures, merchandise all around the world. Why did you choose to get involved with a set of UK stamps?
I guess it's just part of the culture that I grew up in. It's something that I remember as a kid, like getting excited about myself. And it's just, I remember watching like Newsround, and I think it was Blue Peter that used to feature them quite heavily. And I honestly have been thinking about trying to remember which stamps I collected myself, which ones that, excited me. But it was kind of this idea that if something was really cool, I think Thunderbirds was one of them. Like when I was a kid growing up, just this idea that whatever you were excited about, it was super cool when it went onto a stamp as well. And it would be the thing that you'd see every time you'd get a mail, every time something had come in the mail, you'd sort of, see those as well. So I think it was just, I've become quite detached from the UK in the sense that I've been working in LA for so long now that little things like this are a taster of home, I guess.
And Stranger Things is such a complex story, so many characters. How do you go about choosing the characters and the scenarios that feature on the stamps?
I think that's one of the things that's amazing about the show is that there are such a diverse selection of characters and everyone's got a favorite. So it's really fun to explore the different storylines, the different characters, and just try and capture them. It's really just a case of like trying to represent each key moment from the show. That each season highlights different characters in different ways. So it's such a great selection to pick these different moments from. Like Steve, for example, has a different look throughout each season. In season 3, he has this Scoops Ahoy outfit that's quite iconic. And then, in season 2, he had a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it. Even Hopper, he starts as a cop, and as he goes through the season, he sort of goes away from that into a more vigilante role, I guess. So it's each character's got that movement, especially the kids as well, because they age so much throughout the show. They start out, Eleven's this little girl, and then she's so powerful in season 5. It's such a journey, and having all the different landmarks along the way is a lot to choose from.
It must be incredible to look back at that work from 10 years ago, that first series, and look at the characters now, certainly the younger characters, how they've changed. And that must affect your work in terms of understanding the changes they've gone through as they've got older.
Yeah, I mean, my job's really just to try and capture what it is about each character in that moment, in that season. So with season 1, a lot of the what was successful about that show is you're going on this adventure with the younger kids. And there's a lot of, I guess they're scared, they're curious, there's a lot of funny moments, there's a lot of heartwarming moments, there's a lot of those types of things to try and capture whenever I'm drawing the kids young, like that sort of on their bike, going on an adventure, kind of like E.T. as well. And then they're essentially teenagers now in this final season. So they've gone on a journey, they've become a lot stronger and they've been through a lot essentially,
I'm interested in the practicalities. Your work appears on 140 square metre billboards around the world. How do you apply that to a 3.5 centimetre stamp. Is that a real challenge?
My job really is to create something that is readable from distance anyway, because like you say, these billboards that go up on the side of the road around the world, people are supposed to drive past and see that and know what it is and be able to pick out characters, logos, everything really. It's supposed to have a quick read, but the key is clarity, to make sure that the silhouettes are very clear. So it's basically the same technique that I'm using for the stamps. The only difference is that I'm working in a square, and I don't have to stick quite so many people on a stamp as I did when we do the whole cast on the posters. So I was able to create more smaller stories on the stamps, which was really cool.
And of course, you're not working on a 3.5 centimeter canvas, but I'm interested in the tools you use and how you do create your artwork. And it's all digital illustrations, yeah?
Yeah, very much so. Like the style that I'm trying to create is a hand illustrated style that's reminiscent of the 80s illustrated posters. But in order to do that now, everything needs to be layered so that we can make changes. And, you know, if I'm making a wide poster and a tall poster, or even for the stamps, if I need to like make a character smaller or change the pose of a character, there's lots of changes that happen throughout the process, just as different notes come in from different people in the process. So everything has to be digital. And, you know, at the start of this process, when I did season 1, the job was to figure out how to do that style digitally. So a lot of it involves like textures and the actual drawing technique itself. I have like these digital brushes that replicate the look of a pencil, and then this airbrush texture that gives it this sort of painted feel. But basically, I use a tablet. I use an iPad tablet, and I basically use the pencil to draw in onto that tablet. And that's the first stage, is to sort of sketch everything out. I usually send those sketches to the client. And then in this case, Netflix had to review the stamps. The Royal Mail had to review the stamps. The Duffer Brothers reviewed the stamps as well.
Really?
And then finally, once I've drawn everything, sketched everything, I then take that over to my computer where I paint them digitally in Photoshop. So I take my sketches in, add the color, textures, lighting, all those kinds of effects, and just basically try my best to make it look visually appealing and to pop off the envelope, I guess, in this case.
So focusing on the main set of 10 stamps, is there one that one stamp design you found particularly challenging or maybe rewarding?
I think it was really nice to revisit season 1 for this stamp, because it's been such a long journey on this now. Like, it was 2016 when I first did the season 1 poster. So, you know, I think it was around this time that 10 years ago, that I got the first email to say, hey, we've got this TV show. Would you be interested in working on it? And a lot of the imagery for that first stamp is from that season 1 poster. It's the same 11 with the hand out. It's the Christmas lights and the alphabet on the wall, and Joyce in her home kind of going crazy dealing with the whole thing. So that was really nice to kind of revisit that artwork and try and, you know, elevate it slightly, having been so long since I did that. And, you know, there's 2 versions for season 1. I was able to do one that focused more on the upside down. So I was able to do a version of Will, which was, you know, Will's gone on such a journey on this show again. And the word journey comes up quite a lot here because everyone's gone on such a different arc. But seeing him in the upside down in season 1 and seeing where he gets to in season 5 is quite impressive. I think they were all fun. I love going in and out of all the different seasons and trying to pick out what those moments are, and especially when it's something I've not had the chance to do yet. And then obviously, like for season 5, it's cool to do something new. Like, it's exciting for new characters, new environments. So like Vecna for season 5 is just such a menacing looking adversary. So he was fun to draw. He's always that thing where this is super cool. He looks impressive. Like, it's really cool to draw, but then I start adding all the detail and it just takes ages to get through like all of those like tentacles. And he's a really, he really is a monster to draw.
And I'm interested in how far you're let into the world before the shows are released. I mean, do you have an idea of plots and storylines to help inform your work?
I do, yes. It's very important for me to be able to at least see some of the show before I start working on it, because I don't really respond very well to a script. Like, it's interesting to read a script, but I'm an artist. I'm a visual person. And I remember for season one, when they sent me the script, I didn't kind of know what was going on with it. Like I had a vague sense of what was going on in my head, and then they sent me some stills, like a couple of kids on bikes and things, and this like green screen monster. And I didn't really quite understand what was going on with it until they said, okay, we can show you the first 4 episodes. And then I remember watching the first 4 episodes and being like, right, okay, this is awesome. This is going to be amazing. And I got immediately what the poster could be like. So I typically get the first 4 episodes. And as everyone will know, the first 4 episodes of season 5 were just incredible. That it reaches this incredible peak at the end of season 4 with this epic conclusion to one of the storylines. And then, I sort of sit there after watching the first 4 episodes with everything spinning around my head, and I grab my iPad and start sketching like really quick thumbnails. And usually, like, especially with season 5, that last episode, it was like, that's the poster. Like, it's Vecna coming out, returning to Hawkins. There's this red glow around him. And so often there's these moments that really sort of speak out and say, it has to go into the poster. And then for this season specifically, I also got like access to the next episodes, and then they're keeping the finale really under wraps right now, but I've read the script and I've seen some clips, and it's going to be really incredible, and I'm very lucky to even just get a peek at it, I guess.
Have you got lots of new friends and family members you didn't know existed coming out of the woodwork?
I think so. I think over the 10 years it's definitely happened a lot, but I think everyone's just excited that I get to be involved in this. Like, it's always cool when someone you know is working on something that that everybody's excited about. So,
was there a moment? Was there a final flourish of the pen where you knew that is the last piece of work I'll do on this incredible show, or was it not quite that kind of immediate, that kind of definite?
No, that hasn't happened yet because I'm still working on some stuff. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that it's going to be a little while before I don't work on Stranger Things, because I have a feeling that there's just going to be, like, I don't just work on the posters. I work on merchandise. I work on comic books, book covers. This universe can live on for many years, I think. And everyone loves it. I think there's an appetite for more. So, like, it definitely felt like the end of a journey, completing the season 5 poster. Like, I guess it's kind of like with artists releasing albums. Like, once you release your first album, there's a lot of pressure on the second one to be as good as the first one. And it's felt like this for 5 seasons now. Like, every time I do a good one, everyone likes it. There's even more pressure on the 4th one. And then now I've done 4, I can't ruin the 5th one. And I definitely look back at each of the posters that I've done to make sure that they feel part of a series. And it's really difficult to kind of balance, like, how do we make it match the set, feel like it's part of the same show, but also bring something new this season as well. So that's basically the journey. And to answer your actual question, I hope to be working on it a lot more in the coming years.
And it must have been an intense year for you. Were you working on the stamps alongside the work for the show, or how did that kind of play out in terms of the workload for you?
I typically work on a lot of different projects for the show, usually before the poster, because the poster is really the last thing that we do, because I like to see the finished episodes, and they're typically not ready, like, right up until they get released to the public. So I was working on the stamps before I'd even seen any of the season 5 footage, right. Which obviously, like I say, was some of the challenge of figuring out how those season 5 stamps should look. I'd seen some stills and things like that, but it's important to know the story and how those images fit together. It's not just a case of sticking 5 characters on top of each other and there's your stamp. Like, it's how do we capture what that story is about? And that's the case with all of these stamps. So I was definitely relying upon some of the notes that I was getting from the Duffer Brothers for that one, and sort of like, who should we feature? Like, what's the significance of these environmental elements? Like, so, like, for the season 5 stamp with Mr. Whatsit, who he's become in season 5, nobody really knew what that was at the time, and I'd seen shots of Jamie dressed up in his suit, and then Holly, the Nell, I think is the name of the actress, who's dressed in her, like, cloak. no one really knew what that was until they saw the episode. So I was trusting the Duffer Brothers that those two characters had a connection somehow, and just did my best to like capture that in the stamp.
Such fanaticism around this show, and there has been for a decade. What is it about this show, Kyle? You're a fan, you must be a fan, you're immersed in this world, but
Yeah.
what is it about Stranger Things that's captured the imagination of people around the world? Is it the supernatural element, or is it purely just at its heart it's about camaraderie, courage, companionship? Can you put your finger on it?
It's all of those things. I think they definitely like captured something special in season 1 with this group of kids on an adventure in this small town, and the whole town basically trying to come to terms with, you know, the loss of certain people, the mystery of what's going on, and then the kids finding this weird girl in the woods and coming to terms with her, that she has these powers. Like it really is, you know, like many of the great Steven Spielberg movies, you watch the whole thing through the kids' perspective, and you really feel like you're in that world on that adventure. And I think, you know, they did such a great job of making these characters that are lovable, that have, like you say, heart, and they're all, you know, they're not perfect human beings. They've all got their own things going on, and but it really is difficult to understand what it is that's made it a global phenomenon, because there are lots of shows that have that kind of dynamic. I think it's kind of like my artwork in a sense, that I think when people hire me, you're hiring my taste. And I think I must have good taste. And, you know, I must know, like any artist, you're inspired by things that you find nice and great, and, you know, all that kind of thing. So I have a lot of artists that I, you know, reference, and that I find inspiring, movies that I like, moments that I like, colors that I like, the technique that I like. So all of that goes into my taste. And then I get hired if people also agree that it's a good amalgamation of all those things. And I think the Duffer Brothers must just have really good taste in movies and moments, and that they love horror. They love, you know, these 80s iconic movies. And I think they've done just a fantastic job of capturing what it was about all of those movies, and like putting it all in a blender, and then essentially cultivating and capturing a story that has the best of all of those things, but also with a modern twist, that it's edited in with a pace. It's got great music, and I think they just hired great people in every department that are passionate and that are talented, and I think all of that really pays off when you see the assembled product in the show.
And that's what first drew me to the show, was the, I guess, the nostalgia. You know, the Goonies, Stand By Me, E.T. I used to ride around on a BMX. That kind of first kind of grabbed me. But in terms of the aesthetic, the 80s classic retro aesthetic that you specialize in, what inspired that, or perhaps who inspired that?
I'm one of the kids that grew up. It was still VHS tapes, and I used to sit in front of the TV with some of my favorite VHS tapes, and I used to like just try and draw them, because I used to really like want to express my passion for whatever it was, whether it was the TV shows or you know, cartoons or movies. And I think retrospectively, when I look back, a lot of those covers that I was like trying to draw, or that I was drawn to, were created by an artist called Drew Struzan, who a lot of people know for Star Wars, The Goonies, Back to the Future, many incredible pieces of art. And his work basically is a staple for that era of illustrated posters that everybody remembers. So he was my first, like, my favorite movie poster of all time is done by him, the movie Hook. With Peter Pan and Captain Hook. And I just love that poster. And what I love about that poster is that you look at that poster, as with many of his, but in particular that one, it has this like scroll like edge to it. It just looks like a pirate movie. And you look at that poster, and that is the movie. Like you know, I've heard that quote before, but you can kind of just go into that poster and you're in the movie. And so I drew from, my inspiration came a lot from Drew Struzan's work, both his technique, but also his ability to capture that movie magic. There's a couple of artists as well, John Alvin as well. He was another 80s, 90s illustrator who did a lot of posters that I personally responded to when I was a kid. Richard Amsel is another one, and mostly for his technique as well with the pencil illustration. And I basically just grabbed a big folder of all my favorite movie posters and just tried to see what it was about those posters that felt important, iconic, beautiful, and tried to figure out what the Stranger Things poster could be, because it needed to look like it came from that era for it to work, for that nostalgia, like you say, to really become apparent from the artwork. And I get so many messages from people who just say, like, I saw your poster and I just knew I had to watch the show. And that is the ultimate payoff. Like, that for me says, yeah, I did it. I made it work, because that's what I used to do. And that's what many people used to do. You'd go to the theater, you'd look at all the posters and you'd just say, oh, well, we should watch that one. And the poster often is what made you do that. I mean, obviously we've got trailers now, so it's a slightly different culture, but my poster goes online and within minutes, it's got millions of views around the world and people are excited about the next season. And I think it's the same thing.
So Kyle, you grew up in Manchester and you studied oil painting at Manchester. What was the breakthrough that led you to LA?
Oh, yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. Like I've always loved movies, always loved TV shows. Like that's basically been my childhood. And I also loved art. Like done everything possible to try and make art every hour of the day. That's what I used to still love doing. And it basically, I've said this story a number of times, but like when you were in school, you used to like get an assignment where you got to write a story or you've got to, whatever it would be. And then they'd say, you can include an illustration if you like. And I'd be like, yes, because I could spend like 10 minutes writing the story and then I'd spend like 4 hours on the drawing. And I think as I went through school, it was just any opportunity to do like more artwork. And then when it got to like A levels, I was able to focus on painting. And as I got better at painting and drawing, I was looking for more and more of a challenge. So for me, it became apparent that faces was where it was at. I really wanted to learn how to be a portrait painter. I wanted to capture likenesses, like be able to do it from life. And I did many years of like practicing painting techniques. And so that led me down the path of oil painting into university. But it became apparent to me at university that I was not going to be a fine artist because I didn't really fit in that world. I was still interested in story. My passion was still movies and TV, and everyone in the art world is interested in different things than I was. So that's when I just knew like there's got to be some way I can bring these two worlds together, whether it's, in movies, like creating concept artwork or like even looked at like the idea of like animation and storytelling through animation with sort of Pixar. They have a lot of great artists at Pixar as well. So I kind of went down that route, and then that meant I needed to be in Hollywood working on those kinds of projects. And I just basically, at the same time as all of that was going on, I became quite literate with the computer and with Photoshop, and I started drawing on an iPad as well. And the short version of the story is that I got a lot of notoriety online for doing these digital paintings with the iPad, and it basically took over the internet for a little while, got loads of views and things like that. The piece that actually broke the door was this movie poster that I did for the J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg movie Super 8. It was essentially a fan piece that I did. Basically, I just watched the trailer and just put together a fan poster and put that online, and it just blew up. And Paramount reached out to me to say, can we have the poster and can we use it for the marketing for the movie? And it ultimately then got used in the European marketing for the movie and is now on the DVD and the Blu-ray and things like that. And that's what the Duffer Brothers and Netflix saw, that they thought, he's probably a good fit for our show because it's a similar world that they're building with the sort of 80s nostalgia. So that's the long-winded version, but it's been a bit of a journey from, like I say, painting portraits at university and then just trying to figure out a way to work in the industry, in the entertainment industry.
And I would encourage our viewers and listeners to dig out the Morgan Freeman work that's online. That really did break the internet, did it? It was all over global media, this incredible piece of work. Yeah. Was it a digital finger painting and something like 280,000 strokes?
I had this insane notion that I could create an indistinguishable photorealistic painting on an iPad. And I came up with this technique that seemingly no one had figured out. Because the idea is that the iPad had the ability to record every single brushstroke that you did. So you couldn't trace anything. You couldn't everything that you did in the app, it would present in the video, and it would churn out this great video of the process, And I came up with this really complicated technique that allowed me to triangulate perfectly every single pixel as I was drawing. So I was able to take a photograph, kind of grid the whole thing up, but basically triangulate every single section onto where I was painting on the iPad. So I was able to paint with these really broad brush strokes at the beginning that makes it look like a childish finger painting. And it was a deliberate ploy. It was this idea, if I start really loose and sketchy, and then it gets really impressive. As you speed that up, it'll be this really impressive video. And I just got carried away, and every pixel, honestly, there were people who thought it was fake because they overlaid it with the photograph at the end, and it's exact. I think it's something 99.8% accurate. And the idea that that's done with a finger on an iPad just is imperceivable. But the idea is I was able to zoom in to almost every single pixel and then compare that to the photo. And then if you do that for long enough, like an insane person, it will eventually look like the photo. And that's what I did. And then, put that online. And just because people were having this conversation about how to use an iPad, can it be used for anything productive? The two things just kind of came together at the same time. This idea of this video, and can you use an iPad? And everyone was like, yeah, you can use an iPad. Look, So that really just blew everybody away. But this was just that was kind of the end of this journey of how can I create beautiful portraits? And I just took it a little bit too far, I think, with that video, because it was really extreme. But I definitely still use all of that technique and being able to make it look so realistic. You have to really have a strong ability to mix color, match color, and be able to compare what you're drawing to the source material so that it's perfectly accurate. And that's what is really important in these posters, is that it does look like the actor that that I'm drawing.
Yeah. I'd encourage everyone to check that out. It's absolutely ridiculous. So you're this Manchester lad strolling along Sunset Boulevard with his 140-metre square billboard behind him, dropping into Macy's to see his products everywhere. Do you ever take a step back and just reflect on the role you're playing, the key role you're playing at the heart of this huge cultural phenomenon?
Yeah, there's lots of moments where I get to have that sort of experience of feeling, because it's very solitary working as an artist. I literally spend 99% of my year sat in my office, painting, drawing, watching episodes on the TV. So it can be quite solitary, and this idea that I'm working on something that everybody in the world is seeing is definitely hard to grasp at times. But I think there's just a couple of moments, especially my friends in the UK, when they see it, it makes me feel like, oh, it's at least gone over the pond. But more visibly in the way that I live my life is that, like you say, I go into the stores and there's there's packets of crisps with the Demogorgon that I've drawn on it. And I'm like, oh, they put it on the crisps. That's great. And then, I'll see a kid wearing my shirt, with the artwork on the shirt. And then that's the big one, because that's me when I was a kid wearing my Batman shirt. That's what it is to them. And then there's other moments, honestly, 2 days ago I was in LA and I got to go up on the roof of the Netflix building, and then across the street on their giant building they put the artwork on the front of it, and it's this, the season 5 artwork has this giant red top half, and you can see it across the whole city. In the background is Los Angeles, and then you can just see the vastness. It's such a big city. It's such a beautiful city. And I was able to look out, and that's all you can see is just this artwork. It's just so present. And I think that was the moment where I felt like I took over LA. It really, it was a very visual representation of the achievement. And, it's important that, I focus on being as good as I can be and trying to improve as an artist. But it is nice sometimes just to stop and go, this is what you wanted to do when you were a kid. Like, you've made it. Take a moment, breathe, enjoy, and, use that as inspiration to keep going. And that's what I did. So
Kyle, your work appears on so many collectible items of memorabilia. I mean, are you a collector yourself? Were you a collector as a youngster?
Yeah, I mean, like you see, I've got a few, not a few, like, honestly, anything that they print my artwork on, I typically get a copy of, or I go and find in the store. And I have like a little hallway in my house with sort of the some of the like projects that I've worked on, whether I've worked on a couple of other shows and movies and things like that. So I have a hallway with some of that stuff. And then I also collect action figures as well. So I've got a whole house full of stuff. Like, I'm, the reason I am so passionate about this stuff is that I am a big movie and TV fan, and I'm just like everybody who collects this stuff. Like, I love it. And I think it's important not to forget that I'm a fan, and that's what, like, when I get excited about it, hopefully that translates through the artwork. Like, I am creating artwork for people like me that, I want someone to look at what I do and be excited and want it on their t-shirt, want it on a poster on the bedroom wall, and then want to go and watch the show. So I think the as much as I can do to keep that, childhood feeling of excitement, the better. So, I surround myself with toys and all kinds of stuff like that. I love it.
So you're dominating the LA skyline, but you're returning to your UK roots with these Royal Mail stamps. Is there, despite all the acclaim and the awards, is there a sense of joy, even pride in having your work on a stamp?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you would say a stamp's quite small. Like, it's, how important can that be? But it's more of a symbol of the history of the UK. It's definitely like up there on the achievements across the seasons that I've worked on Stranger Things, and just all the projects that I've worked on. And I think it is like a little love letter that I've sent back to the UK from LA. Having finished working on this big show. I guess that's kind of a nice little way to look at it.
Thanks to Kyle. His work appears on 10 new stamps, a miniature sheet, metal covers, a prestige stamp book presentation pack, framed collectibles, and many more Stranger Things souvenirs. Visit royalmail.com/Stranger Things to explore the complete collection. Also out now is the Stamps of Queen Victoria issue, tracing the origins and evolution of the world's first adhesive stamps, including the iconic penny black, a coveted collectible and a major milestone in postal history. Visit royalmail.com/Queen Victoria to explore the complete set. And our 2025 annual collections are now available. They include every stamp set, miniature sheet, presentation pack, and coin set released last year. And this stunning yearbook is a carefully curated compendium of every 2025 stamp and miniature sheet. That's 165 stamps, beautifully displayed in a hardback publication packed with insights and images. It's presented in an illustrated protective box and limited to just 5,000 copies. Discover more at royalmail.com/annual collections. And coming later this month is a special stamps issue marking 50 years of revolutionary supersonic passenger jet Concorde. In February, we're celebrating the home of model railways Hornby, and in March, we're returning to the world of fantasy with The Lord of the Rings. We're commemorating the centenary of the birth of Queen Elizabeth II in April, followed by issues exploring our nation's roses, castles, and waterfalls later in 2026. So another packed year of exquisite stamps and extraordinary stories. Check out previous episodes of the Stampcast, featuring tales behind the Chronicles of Narnia, Royal Observatory Greenwich, Peanuts, and Monty Python. Like, follow, share, and let us know what you want to hear about next time on the Stampcast.